This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to the program. Joining me now, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. John, good to see you at the beginning of the week, as always.
As always, my man.
Let's just begin. First of all, you took a little trip to Stark Vegas this weekend.
Yes,
and
I did.
Perhaps there was some karma associated with that. Could we get you to quit watching the football games or quit going to the football games or something to turn around the Razorbacks' fortune? I don't want you to get blamed. I don't want this to get pinned on you.
I believe that's precisely what you're doing, is blaming me.
How was Starkville other than the football game?
Oh, what a great trip. What a great trip. I got together with seven old tennis buddies, and we took some Mercedes custom van with comfortable leather seats that we overpaid for the experience. Drove to Tunica on Friday, went to a hole-in-the-wall burger joint called Neon Pig, and had one of the best burgers I've ever had. And one of our number had invited some cousins living in the area to meet us there. And one of the cousins was an old Delta travel ticketing office employee from Little Rock. I don't mean old, former, who said she was a good friend of my wife, Shayla, who formerly was in the travel business, had been in our home for a 4th of July party 30 years ago, comforting our late lab, Bubba, when Shayla was firing fireworks in the backyard. What a deal. To go with your tennis buddies, and on the way down, he's saying, I'm going to have some of my cousins come by, and one of them has that story. Isn't that a great story?
That's a small world, is what it is.
It is. It's not. Well, it may be a small world, but it's a smaller southern Arkansas, Mississippi region. Great company, great fun, great weather. Tailgating after the game. There was a partnership of a guy cooking the best ribs I've ever had, with the tailgate party next to us, which wanted some of the ribs in exchange for their side dishes and desserts. What a time. Everything except the game, but I was not terribly surprised by the game. Unfortunate. I remember we were on here 3 weeks ago, a month, and I was saying, looks like we going to have a good season. We're going to have to retract that. Maybe they can turn it around. I'm personally not optimistic, but that's maybe others are, and I hope they're right. The team seems to be going in the wrong direction. But hey, what a great human, social, cultural experience, and I enjoyed it despite the game.
Little Southern hospitality, always good. All right, let's turn to politics. Since we last sat down, I guess a national news story has aired and been in circulation involving Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, who is the Republican nominee for lieutenant governor. She sits down with Jon Stewart, the famous comedian, and I guess he kind of embarrassed her is the only way I can describe it, in terms of his logic in defeating some of the arguments she put out there about Arkansas's transgender law. Does it change her fortunes politically? And what did you make of the whole incident to begin with?
If it changes her fortunes, it's certainly not for the worse. I think everybody got what they wanted out of this exchange. Stewart and his producers, I believe, in advancing their case that there are these rubish, unenlightened places, Arkansas mainly, where they're telling the doctors and the parents they can't choose treatment for hormone treatment for their children with gender dysphoria. I think they looked around the country and said, and I think they probably did a YouTube search of Leslie Rutledge and said, she's just what we're looking for. She's an overconfident, country-sounding attorney general down in Arkansas, and let's go down there and let her embarrass herself. I think they got what they wanted. I think Rutledge has a sort of a misplaced confidence in her glibness but she wanted to absorb that kind of ridicule. Let's just let him ridicule me on an issue as I'm a politician seeking to fortify my future in a state that has very little regard for transgender issues and has very little regard for celebrity hyper liberals like Jon Stewart. So, most of us with whom I talk are saying, my God, why did she do that? She embarrassed the state and he destroyed her. I would say, yes, that's so, but I think everybody's purposes were served. Nobody's opinion was changed. And Arkansas was not embarrassed by this episode. If you were embarrassed by that, the state, then consider that the state deserves to be embarrassed for the kind of politicians we're electing and the kinds of issues that we're clinging to. So no harm, no foul, purposes served, a mild bit of entertainment on Apple TV, which few people in Arkansas, I think, probably watch. I think our audience here may rival that show's audience. It's fascinating. It's what people are talking about. The question down in Starkville, when I'd see people from Arkansas, did you see Jon Stewart destroy Leslie Rutledge? Why would she agree to do that? And I just endeavored to explain. And just a little moment of curious entertainment is what it'll amount to.
All right, let's see if you can explain this next political topic here. It centers on the city of Little Rock. We have seen the cancellation of the Lit Fest festival.
Right.
Was supposed to happen this last weekend. You clearly were going to Starkville, and we're not going to participate in it. But what does this do in terms of its impact on the Little Rock mayor's race? Incumbent Mayor Frank Scott obviously tied deeply to this debacle is the only word that I can come up with other words too, but that's the one I'm going to use for purposes of this.
Yeah.
Does this sink him further? Does this solidify some portion of his base that's going to rally around him for feeling like he's being singled out?
Well, that's a good question. I think it hurts him. I think the crime issue is the big issue and remains so. I think it motivates a lot of people in Little Rock who are just fatigued and with the crime issue, greatly worried about it, and are in a mood that in politics causes people to vote for change, regardless of the demonstrated quality of the change. And that was already the case. But compound it now with a pretty clear case that beyond that, Scott's administration has been of service to supporters, has been in terms of favoring supporters, has not worked at all well to mend any fences to govern the city with the city board, and has certainly not been at all transparent, but in fact tricky and secretive with the state contract and with the departure of Scott's good friend and chief of staff, Charles Blake, and the tie-in with the company hired to supposedly consult on this festival, which never seemed, the contract was canceled by the city manager 2 or 3 days before the festival, but even then I didn't think they were going to pull it off. There might be some disparate events loosely tied together, but they certainly failed in creating any sort of organized festival. When there are people around the country, if you want to do a festival, who know how to do that kind of thing. All of that means that I'm sitting having a lunch with Mr. Landers last week, and 3 or 4 people came up, white West Little Rock people, who told him I was for Scott. I was for Scott 4 years ago. I tried to help him, but it's just too much. I saw that happen, and I think that's probably a significant thing. So the race is closer. 40% plus one that leads the ticket wins that. Scott has the inside track due to the demographics of the city and his base. but I think something's happening elsewhere, and I don't think that base is as motivated as it was because of the history-making nature of his campaign 4 years ago. So I'm thinking we now have a hotter, closer race than we had before these rather notable disclosures that are not at all favorable to him and his leadership.
May turn out to be the most interesting race of the night that we watch politically.
I think there are two. This one, I think this one, and then the recreational marijuana. I think those two are the big ones. Even as we change governors to a nationally famous person involved, I think that's third fiddle to those two matters on the ballot.
All right, he's John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We get his take every week, and we appreciate it. Thank you, John.
I appreciate you. Thanks.